If you're a creator and you're sick of blending in with the dreaded sea of sameness online, this video be for you. It's going to be how you can stand out like a fart in a library. So there's a lot of things that I do in my content on social media, and I'll be honest, a lot of it was not done by design to start with. But things resonate. Phrases, sayings, how I do things, what I wear, and people pick up on it, and so I do more of it, you know? And so over on Threads, I've become the make more offers guy. And that is one of the things I say almost every single day. I will lead with a desire, and then I will say, I'll say, if you want to pick up your kids from school every day, make more offers. It's make more offers. It's on 3 lines. I have like a framework. I bet you I've shared that make more offers thing 150 times. And people associate me with those 3 words. And I talk about it and I say, make more offers, make more offers, make more offers. And what I mean by that is pitch your product daily. I don't mean create more products or create more offers. Just pitch the one that you have every single day. And because I find a lot of people, and I've ran polls, I've talked to so many people. I ran a poll recently and I said something like, when's the last time you made an offer? You know, today, 1 to 3 days, 4 to 7 days, 7+. And a lot of people voted 7+. They hadn't made an offer in a week. And I can almost guarantee those people are struggling, you know? So I talk about making offers. And it just kind of came about last summer. I started doing it and it resonated with people. So I kept doing it. And so now I have like probably 25 different phrases where either I will start with a problem my audience has, and then I say make more offers, essentially meaning like, if you have this problem, make more offers is the solution. That's the gist of it. So one of them is, if you're sick of the revenue roller coaster, make more offers. And then on the flip side, I'll lead with a desire, and it's like, if you want this desire, make more offers. So that's how I do it. I lead with a problem, lead with a desire, and then I plug in my make more offers. You know, and I've just become known for that. They're like, make more offers. I mean, I've had dozens and dozens of people tag me in posts where they're making an offer. They're like, Adam taught me this, Adam make more offers. Or somebody will be like, oh, I'm struggling with sales. And they're like, well, listen to Adam. He says make more offers. You know, and so as silly as that sounds, just those 3 words. And again, I didn't like sit down and map this out or nothing. I threw it out there one day and it resonated. And so I did it again. And like, that's where most of my shit comes from. The market lets me know what's working and the market lets me know what's not working. And I do more of what is working. For another example, a guy commented on Threads this morning, just right before I left the house to take on this walk. And he said, I got to get back to YouTube. I need to go get a weighted vest like you have to differentiate myself. Now, I started wearing this weighted vest in January. Ironically, I got the idea from a lady named Gina. She goes by Cowboy Leisure on Instagram. She wears a weighted vest. And so I saw her wear it. She's lost a lot of weight, you know, with dieting and exercise in this weighted vest. And so I bought one at the end of December. And I started wearing this, I think, January 2nd of this year. And now I have people, again, I got the idea from Gina, but now I have people telling me that they bought the vest because of me. And they associate me with this weighted vest. Some people think it's a bulletproof vest. They're like, where do you live in Vegas? You got a bulletproof vest, you know? But it starts conversation. I have this backwards hat. You wanna see how nasty this is? My girlfriend is like, get rid of that thing. It is disgusting. And I was like, well, I can, but I have to get a new hat before I do because this is my signature move. You know, 90% of my Instagram reels and Instagram stories are right here, you know, with a backwards hat and a weighted vest. All of my YouTube videos are like this, or just about all of my videos are like this, but it's become part of my brand. Again, not on purpose, just a backwards hat and a weighted vest, you know, but I do things, and again, not intentionally really, you know, but then people start commenting on it. And I've had people here on YouTube comment, they're like, I love the walking and talking videos. They're like, one take, no edits. And I had a guy just the other day, he was trying to create YouTube videos, or he was creating YouTube videos, and he was kind of struggling. I think he was doing it inside. And then he's like, dude, I got inspired by you, and I went out in my backyard and I just walked around and talking just like you do. And he's like, dude, it's like so much more natural. He's like, I loved it. And I commented on the video. I'm like, do more of it, man. So like, just, it's funny because there's another guy that I watch. His name is David on here, and he's from Ireland. And he's very low-key dude. And he sits in his garden, and it's very green and luscious. And I started watching him like 2 months ago, and I was telling my buddy Conrad, I'm like, man, I wish I had like a garden or something where I could sit in and have like this scene, so to speak, this background that's consistent. And then I got thinking about it. I'm like, wait a second, I do. I do it by walking though. David does it sitting in a garden. I do it walking around my neighborhood in Las Vegas. And it's just become my thing now. You know, people joke around, they're like, oh my gosh, you basically get paid to take a walk. And I was like, yeah, essentially that's what it is. You know, so it's stuff like that. And in Threads Unleashed, you know, that's an ebook that I released just over a year ago. And I talked about like creating mind movies with your words, with your content, you know, painting pictures, you know, getting them to imagine it. Because if they can see it, it's more believable. If it's more believable, they're going to trust you more. So a big part of Threads Unleashed was like creating these mind movies, but also using like metaphors. And I opened this video with a metaphor. I did it on purpose. You know, so I have probably like 8 or 10 metaphors that I've just created over the years. And I say them frequently. Like I used to say, I don't say it as often now because he's not as popular, but I used to say, walk around with the confidence of Conor McGregor. You can imagine that. If you know who Conor McGregor is, which most people do, you think of the days when he was in the UFC and kind of walking with his strut down to the ring. You know, I could say boost your confidence. I could say skyrocket your confidence. I could say increase your confidence. That's boring as shit. That's what everybody says. Nobody says walk around like, have the confidence like you're walking around like Conor McGregor. You know, so they're like, and you can see it. You can imagine Conor McGregor. Now I know that might bring up negative, you know, some people don't like him. I understand that. You know, but another one I say is like a fart in library or like a fart in church. You know, another thing that I say I got known for on Threads, instead of saying like make more money, that's what everybody says. That's boring as shit. I blend in with everyone if I say make more money. So what I say instead is stuff your piggy banks with more of the green stuff. Stuff your piggy banks with more of the green stuff. And I've had dozens of people on Threads quote me. They'll put it in quotes and put like Adam, and they'll tag me. And they'll say, I'm stuffing my piggy banks with more of the green stuff. You know, it's little stuff like that. I'm saying the same thing as everybody else. I'm saying make more money, but I'm saying it in a different way. I'm saying it in a creative way. I'm saying it in a fun way. I'm saying it in a funnier way. You know, another one I say is, instead of saying like this is hard or this is difficult, I say this is like folding a fitted bed sheet blindfolded. We've all struggled, especially us men, with folding fitted bed sheets. It's a pain in the ass. And then imagine doing it blindfolded or with one arm tied behind your back. Oh my gosh, like that, then you really paint the picture. You know, so instead of saying, oh, it's really hard to create content, I could say creating YouTube videos is like folding a fitted bed sheet with one arm tied behind your back blindfolded. That is something you see, you visualize, and you remember me for it. I become memorable by saying weird stuff like that. So what's funny is like I say a lot of the same stuff that other people do, but I just say it in a different way. For like last fall, instead of like, so I would sometimes say make money, you know, stuff your piggy banks with the green stuff. Well, I have a lot of women followers, so then I started changing it up. And I was like, implement my wicked ways, and you can go buy that Chanel purse that you've been eyeing. You know, that's saying make more money, but it's saying it in a much different way. You know, it's saying it in a way that's appealing to women. I stopped saying that because I wanted to try to attract some men to my account, and obviously men aren't going to be attracted to Chanel purses. You know, but it's things like that. So you can literally like sit down, and you leverage ChatGPT too, and sit down and like think of like common things or phrases or sayings or desires that your audience or your market has, and sit down and come up with like 3 to 5 different ways of saying it. They might be humorous, and they don't have to be humorous. Maybe they're just different ways of saying it. You know, and jot them down and then start using them in your content. And so that's what I do. I will throw out these ideas. And by the way, not all of them that I come up with land. Some of them are bad. I don't care. I don't give a shit. I throw them out there 3, 4, 5 times. If I don't really get somebody to bite on it, I'm like, all right, I'm moving on. I'm going to find something else. you know, but I have like, I don't know, I probably have 15 or 20 total phrases that I say, and people know me for these phrases. So that's one way to like really brand yourself. Find a couple of desires that your audience has, find a couple of problems, and get specific with the desires, get specific with the problems, and speak to those where they can imagine them, they can see them, they can visualize them, because if they can visualize them, it makes it more believable. If it's more believable, that builds more trust, and more trust leads to more dollars in your piggy bank. You know, another thing is, I eat 10 eggs a day. And I eat 5 at lunch and 5 at dinner. And I remember when I first shared that, probably 6-8 months ago, the amount of comments that I got about eating eggs, it blew me away. So I say that often now. And I do it kind of almost just for the cheap engagement. But people associate me with eggs, as silly as that sounds. You know, because I talk about eating 5 eggs for lunch and 5 for dinner. And I talk about I skip breakfast. I made a post last week. I said I skip breakfast, I eat 10 eggs a day. I bet you I got a half a dozen comments saying, how can you skip breakfast and eat eggs? I was like, well, I have them for lunch and dinner. Like, a lot of people didn't grasp that concept, that you can have eggs for lunch and you can have eggs for dinner. You know, but so I know that sounds like silly, and it's not like the typical business speak, you know, but I share those things. I share those weird quirks. I talk about my love for Dateline and Keith Morrison, the guy that does Dateline, the older gentleman. And I talk about my love for Dateline and TV shows and some certain rap lyrics. And I share that stuff. And yes, it's silly, and it's like, well, how does this help me build a brand? Like, you're sharing your weird quirks and you're connecting with people. I love a TV show. I talk about how I like cheeseburgers over steak. I was just sharing that with a lady the other day, and she thought I was joking. And I was like, I'm 100% serious. I would much rather have a cheeseburger over a steak. That's just a weird quirk of mine. You know, another thing I said yesterday that I say often, I said something about like, oh, this is the best feeling in the world. And I said, next to cleaning your ears after a shower. I've used that so many times, and I always get comments about little, like, as silly as that sounds, you know, about cleaning your ears after a shower. But that's something I really like. Like, that's one of the best feelings in the world. Like, if we're keeping this PG, by the way, you know, but other people relate, and they're like, oh my gosh, I agree, you know, like, I love cleaning my ears. And then of course I get the other people, they're like, you're not supposed to put a Q-tip in your ears. That's so dangerous. You know what you're doing to your body. Like, that's fine, you know, but it's just building a personal brand. That's what it's about, is sharing like the weird stuff. You know, I'll wrap it up with one last example. So I'm 43. I have the sexual humor of an 8th grader. And for years, I was embarrassed by that. And I didn't like talking about that, because I thought, like, you know, I was a dad, or I am a dad. But 5-6 years ago, I'm like, you know, I find some of this stuff funny. And I'm 36, 37, whatever, and I'm a dad. I probably shouldn't find this stuff funny anymore. And so I kind of like hid it and suppressed it. And then like one day online, I said something like, I have the 8th grade sense of humor. And like other people that like my age, 30s, 40s, even 50s, were like, oh, same here, same here. So then I'd throw out like a little sexual innuendo or some type of a little joke, nothing like gross or nasty or anything, you know? But things that I thought like the 8th grade Adam would have died laughing, and even at the time, like the 38, 39-year-old Adam found funny. But then I found other people found it funny, other people at my age range. And I was like, no shit, there's other weird motherfuckers out there just like me. You know, and it was almost like peeling an onion back. You know, like I shared one thing, you know, and then like I got some comments of people like, oh my gosh, I think that's funny, you know. And so then I'd share it again, or I'd share something else, you know, maybe peeling that onion back. You know, The Office is one of my favorite TV shows, and like the most famous line from that is from Steve Carell, or Michael Scott. And that's what she said. And it's like a sexual innuendo, usually. And I use that in my content all the time. You know, and there's obviously a lot of people that are fans of The Office, and we'll connect over stuff like that. So, like, I don't know, like, I don't see like this stuff taught in like courses and stuff like that. It's kind of silly. But I just have so much things. It could be the food I eat. It could be the restaurants I frequent. I talk about this taco shop in Vegas. It's called Roberto's. And I often say anytime I'm eating it, I'll post, this is the finest taco land and all, you know, finest taco establishment in all the land. You know, people are like, it's fucking Roberto's. It's fast food. You know, I was like, well, to me, it's the finest Mexican restaurant I've ever been to. You know, but it's things like that. It builds relatability, it builds connection with people. I've connected with so many people because of my love for pumpkin pie, eggnog, Reese's peanut butter cups, pizza, cheeseburgers. I mean, the weirdest things that they'll DM me, and we'll start talking about that stuff. And some people are like, oh, how do you transition that to a sales pitch? I'm like, I don't. I don't. And a lot of people are like, well, when you're having a DM conversation, how do you transition to a sales pitch? I never do. I never, ever fucking do. I have a conversation with them as if they're a friend of mine, and we chat about Michael Scott or Dateline or pepperoni pizza or eggnog or pumpkin pie, and then the conversation's over, and then I make an offer a week later, and that person's like, you know what, Adam and I had a good conversation last week, I'm gonna buy his product. That's where the sale is made. You know, it's made in the DMs, but you know, they don't buy it till after the fact. So I don't like worry about like, oh, transitioning to the sale. How do you segue into your sales pitch or what you're offering? I don't at all. If they bring it up, yes, we can talk about it, but I never, ever, ever, ever bring it up unless they ask for it. You know, so your weird quirks, food, TV shows, movie, music, lyrics, restaurants, how you say things, all of that stuff. It's all wrapped up into your brand. So start leveraging that, start sharing those weird quirks. I hate this phrase, but it's true. Let your freak flag fly. I don't like the phrase, but it's true. You know, you're gonna find there's a whole lot more freaks just like you, and you're not as weird as you think you are. Anyways, my name's Adam. If you have comments, questions, concerns on earning a living selling PDFs, drop them right down below. I do these videos Monday through Friday where I walk around my neighborhood, one take, 0 edits, and I upload them to YouTube. So if you like these style videos, make sure you hit subscribe down below. Also, I did a video a couple weeks ago right here, how I'm averaging $540 a day selling silly little PDFs. I walk you through the entire process, so check it out. I'm a bit biased, but I think it's better than Netflix and chill.